So it is day 5 of the Ukrainian incursion into Kursk, and Ukraine's making incredible progress. This is a midday update just to help keep you informed of what's going on because, wow, this is pretty incredible stuff. Okay, I'm going to go through this little thread or pieces of this little thread, and we'll just kind of see more progress over time. The fog of war, Ukraine has showcased remarkable OPSEC, that's operational security, during its incursion into the Kursk region and through the planning phase. The absence of leaks suggests that no traders or amateurs were involved in the planning. Now, this is not like the International Legion going across the border, harassing, raiding, and coming back. This is significant with significant resources devoted to it. The 2023 summer counteroffensive, that's last year what happened when they ran into these minefields and just had a terrible time because they didn't have any air support and the Russians knew they were coming. The 2023 counteroffensive was highly predictable, with indications that Russia had advanced knowledge of Ukraine's movements. And on the 5th day of the operation, we continue to heavily rely on Russian sources. Now, we're talking about like Russian mill bloggers, not official Russian state media sources, because those guys lie. But the mill bloggers are actually pretty truthful. And as Ukraine shrewdly refrained from publishing extensive information, they've been pretty tight-lipped. So that's where we are here so far. Now, I want to show you this is as of about 4 hours ago what the map looks like. Here's where we know, here's where they're moving into and we think we know. But what's really important here is even if they haven't achieved anything else, just this movement is going to be showing that they've won significantly. Like they've taken a bunch of conscripts as prisoners and they'll be able to trade them. And so that's big. And the prisoners are they're pretty upset about conscripts being prisoners in Russia. Now, this is where the incursion has taken place on the border. The Russians are moving from Kharkiv and from the northern region, which these aren't the greatest fighters, from Donetsk, even from down here. They're moving these Russian soldiers over, and that will alleviate pressure on Donetsk, and that's really, really helpful. Ukrainian military reports, and so this was 8 hours ago, so this was about yesterday, 490 Russian soldiers killed in a precision attack on a column of military equipment in the Kursk region. I talked about that already. This isn't new, but just so you can see and feel what this was like. And the Russian propagandists were saying we're making the same mistakes day after day, year after year. Maybe it's time to issue some order to forbid moving in convoys within a 100-kilometer zone, to forbid information, to forbid using and even installing WhatsApp. Right? Yeah, that's right, because they keep getting slaughtered because they keep doing stupid stuff. Our airfields and our aircraft have no reinforced concrete shelters. Was the person who was responsible for it ever published? No, probably not. And people responsible for, say, the front lines. Let's go back here. People responsible, there were lines here and here, right? What happened to them? A lot of it was probably embezzled away, and nothing's going to happen to them. So that's where they are. Okay. And then you see the site of a Ukrainian T-64 BV main battle tank moving northeast through a Russian town. Like, that's not something that the Russians were ever mentally prepared for. They expected this war was just going to be a special military operation. It's over there. And this is important because they didn't rise up and revolt because, well, of course, there are consequences for that, but they didn't rise up and revolt because they thought it wasn't going to affect them personally. And when it does come to them, they're not very happy about it. Here, the Ukrainian military's breakthrough into the Kursk region and its advance over several days has left senior government officials and businessmen close to the Kremlin bewildered. They didn't think it was going to happen. Look, I study this stuff daily. I was caught off guard. Most people were caught off guard. We're like, whoa, hey, this is happening. And in fact, the first day I was saying, it's probably not going to be much, probably just a raid over the border. It might not be something. Let's wait and see. Well, the second day, we were sure it was more than just a raid over the border. Not long ago, elites speculated that Putin might launch military operations into neighboring NATO countries to seize cities such as Narva in Estonia. But that doesn't seem to be on the table. They can't handle, I don't know, upwards of 10,000 maybe. Now, that's a tenth of what swarmed into Ukraine in the first days of the war. Upwards of 10,000 maybe Ukrainian soldiers in Russia, and they don't know what to do. They're flipping out. They can't handle this. Okay, now Putin is a strong man. And as a strongman, he has to, so I'm a strongman, I have it all under control. It's kind of like Donald Trump has to say, I see, I fill up these rallies. And if these rallies aren't completely filled up, packed out, it's kind of defying that he is what he is. Does that make sense, that analogy? It's really undermining Putin in a significant way. The Russian elites are perceiving the AFU invasion as a blow to Putin's reputation. It really, really is. Okay. Anton Gershchenko, Russian media report that the Kursk nuclear power plant is being prepared for defense. Now, I don't know if the Ukrainians are going there or not. Maybe they are going to try to take it. I have no idea how that's all going to play out. On Friday afternoon, law enforcers blocked entrances to the Kursk nuclear power plant. And if they were to take it and try to swap, maybe that's a significant thing, or maybe just to hold it. I don't know, and see what the international community does or says or whatever. Russian bloggers report that the Kursk nuclear power plant is preparing for defense as small AFU mobile groups, 5 to 20 people, have allegedly been spotted already. Well, okay, so that's from official Russian sources, but maybe that's the case. Earlier, an employee of the Kursk nuclear power plant said that the management does not instruct personnel in any way about the plan of action in case of a strike on the plant. Employees work in bunkers with thick walls. But that seems to be the way that everything works here, where there's some information maybe at the top, but it doesn't tend to trickle down. Kursk nuclear power plant accounts for more than half of all electricity in Russia's central Black Earth region. It's one of the 3 largest nuclear power plants in the country and consists of 4 units. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but it could possibly be something that the Ukrainians are trying to take. We don't know if they're going to get to there, and they're not there yet, certainly from everything that I've read so far. We must look at the situation, again, Anton Gershchenko, we must look at the situation soberly. It won't be possible to chase them away quickly, says a Russian parliamentary member, right? Like, yeah, they understand that this is not a small incursion and that they don't have the resources to push them out anytime soon. According to Member of Parliament General Audrey Gerlerov, the Ukrainian army has involved significant means and forces for this offensive, and that must be taken into account. That's right. That's what's going on. It is significant. This is not just a little feint one way in order to distract. This is a significant incursion. I said earlier, I kind of feel bad for the Russians who, but where were you? Where was the outcry? You're right on the freaking Ukrainian border. Why weren't you speaking up earlier? More than 76,000 people have been evacuated from the Kursk region due to Ukrainian military offensive. A couple of years ago, you probably would have been going over to Kharkiv to go shopping or something along these lines. And now you're refugees. And I hate to see refugees. I really do. I hate to see that. But at the same time, why didn't you stand up? Why didn't you speak up? Why didn't you do something earlier? But who's speaking up? Who's saying something now? Lukashenko is. Belarus. We appeal to the peoples of neighboring Europe. In the event of an expansion of the conflict, the fire will spread throughout the region, including the EU countries. There will be no winners. Calm down your war-oriented politicians. Okay, so Lukashenko suddenly is concerned about the war that Russia has been waging for now 10 years. 2.5 years full scale, but 10 years total from the beginning of the invasion. And now he's concerned about it. Well, that's a little bit too little too late. It's also reported that a Russian Su-34 was shot down in the Kursk region, but we don't have official confirmation, so just take that with a grain of salt. It comes from a legitimate source, in Anton Gershchenko, but we just don't know yet, so give it time. I'll leave you with 2 visuals here. This is a Ukrainian soldier taking down a Russian flag. And this is one visual you want to see. And the other visual is, again, this is while Gerasimov is lying to Putin. Just look at Putin's face. Oh, he's not happy. Yep, he's pretty miserable. Just look at that face. He knows he's being lied to. All right, my friends, that's the update for today. A midday update. I'll do 3 big stories later in the day. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Thank you for the time, the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.